Tom Howard. I own air conditioning and plumbing companies in California and Nevada. Started my company, bought my company at a little over a million in sales, and now that particular company is this year we'll probably do about 9 figures. So I'm pretty stoked about it. Grew a lot, but people ask me about marketing, and marketing is a big piece of that. And I want to tell people the number one thing that I see, the mistake that I see business owners make when they're looking at marketing. There's two types of marketing. A lot of times the first mistake they make is they don't understand the difference between them. One is brand recognition campaigns, and the other is direct sale campaigns. So direct sale is pretty straightforward. You're putting out an ad, you're trying to get people to buy. So $100 off a tune-up or whatever, and trying to get people to come out, allow you to come out to their house to sell them some home service. No problem. You see that in direct mail, you see it on door hangers, you see it on Google ads, you see it on your, whatever. You got Yelp ads, whatever. Then you've got brand recognition campaigns. Brand recognition campaigns and branding campaigns are totally different than direct sale. In direct sale, they need a way to contact you, a website, a phone number, whatever. They need a call to action, something to do to buy from you. Please, $2,000 off a new air conditioner if you buy this time, $500 off a toilet, something like that. Some deal, some reason to call, and a way to get a hold of you. Brand recognition campaigns are totally different, but people mix those up. Now, brand recognition campaigns are, hey, I just want you to know who I am. I want you to get familiar with who I am. Ishmael Valdez talks about it, and he says, hey, and one thing that he did really well was marketing. He said, look, with your direct sale campaigns, it's kind of like the nets in the back of the boat, right? If you're a fisherman, you throw your net in the water, you want to catch as many fish as you can. And that's cool, but you got a bunch of boats in the water, and they're all trying to catch fish. Direct sale campaigns, you can try to make your net bigger by spending more money. You can try to make it tighter. You can do all these things to try to catch more fish. What brand recognition campaigns do and what branding does is it changes the current to push the fish towards your net. So if you look at it that way, these things are like billboards. Billboards are a great medium to use for brand recognition campaigns because people only have a few seconds to look at what you're talking about. Like your logo, whatever, your radio ads. People only have 30 seconds on radio ads, 60 seconds tops on a radio ad to hear what's going on and hear about who you are. The reality is that everyone puts, phone numbers like you would need in a direct sale campaign on a billboard. Billboards aren't going to be great for direct sale campaigns in the home service industry, typically. There might be some exceptions to that. But the truth is, no one's going to be driving down the road and think, you know what? Oh, I just saw, $2,000 off a home air conditioning system. Yeah, I've got, $15,000 in my pocket and my air conditioner's not broke. Because I saw that ad, I'm going to call them and I'm going to ask for a new air conditioner. And you know what? Let me pull off to the side of the road on the highway and write down the phone number that I see on the bottom of the billboard. It's just never going to happen. They're going to see it for a few seconds and keep driving. Now, if you use brand recognition campaigns as direct sale campaigns and try to treat them the same, you're going to have massive problems. You could spend tons of money on brand recognition campaigns that simply won't work. The truth is, it's like if you put all that information on the billboard showing your phone number and $2,000 off an air conditioner and everything else, they're not even going to recognize your logo. So you're not going to get the branding out of it, and you're not going to get any direct sales out of it, so you're going to get nothing. It doesn't mean anything. On billboards, you should be looking at branding. On radio ads, branding, TV ads, mostly branding. Those are all branding. You want them to see your ads. The number one thing they make a mistake on is they don't realize there's two different types of marketing campaigns. And quite frankly, the billboard company and the radio company is not going to tell you that because they just want to sell you more ad space. A lot of them don't even know. If they were great at marketing, they'd probably be doing something else besides selling, radio ad space. So first thing, make sure you understand the difference between brand recognition campaigns and direct sale campaigns. Second thing is that once you get into branding, you have to start thinking about frequency. Branding is all about frequency. What you want to have happen is you want to have people to see your branding and start getting a feeling from you. Whatever message that is. Warm, cozy, whatever, trustworthy, something like that. Those are all things that you want to convey, that you may want to convey in your branding. You have to decide what your brand is. And you have to be consistent across that entire brand. There's tons of books out there. Like I said, Seth Godin writes a bunch of books and does a bunch of podcasts and things. Dan Antonelli from Kick Charge Marketing talks about this all the time in his books. You need to have a story brand is a great book to read. You need to figure out what your brand is, and then you need to put that onto your brand recognition campaigns. Now, when you're doing that, you need, in order for them to feel those things, they need to get frequency of it. If they see your ad one time, they're probably not going to remember who you are. How many ads do you see when you're driving down the highway and see your billboards? How many radio stations do you hear? How many TV commercials? How many of them do you actually remember? That should be the driver. How can we get them to remember who we are? How can we get that frequency that we want to get there? Now, so typically they go out and say, okay, I'm going to do these brand recognition campaigns, and they start and they say, I'm going to do a radio ad. Well, if your city, here's the center of your city, and this is the size of your city, and there's highways and, roads going all the way through and everything else. When I run a radio ad, I can't say, I just want to hit this section of my city. You have to hit the whole city. When you're paying for a radio ad, you got to hit the whole thing. So if you're just starting out, you might only have a budget to run one radio ad every other day for 30 seconds for a month, maybe 2 months. If that's the case, how much recognition do you think you're going to get? What is your frequency? That's what you got to ask yourself. You can't just hit this section, because maybe if you could hit just this section, you might be able to afford 4 ads. You might be able to hit 4 times in that area, but you can't. You got to do this whole thing. So when I tell people when they're starting brand recognition campaigns, I say, look, if you can only afford 1/4 of your city, figure out what quarter it is. If it's only a 10th, figure out what 10th it is, and then start blowing that up. So I might not be able to afford a radio ad that runs 5 times a day all the way throughout my whole city, but you know what? I can afford 5 billboards in this one area. The truth is, at that point, you're going to get moms coming home from work, dads going to the office, whatever, running past your billboard over and over and over again. And the people that live in this area are going to think you're huge. And they're going to start getting very, very, very familiar with your brand. The truth is, when they see your billboard, let's say you're an air conditioning company, the chances of them seeing your billboard while their air conditioning's out is slim to none. They're gonna realize their air conditioning's dead when they're at home. What are they gonna do? They're probably gonna pull out their phone. They're gonna type in, AC repair near me, whatever, and hopefully you're in the top 3 spots that come up. And they're like, you know what? Jim's Heating and Cooling. I've seen that billboard a bunch of times. He's been around a long time. He's not a fly-by-night operation. I'm familiar with him. They're more likely to click on your link and more likely to buy from you. Your brand recognition campaigns basically increase conversion rates on your direct sale campaigns like you have with Google or Yelp or whatever else. So in this area, you're probably going to get a lot more sales. Now, are you going to get here, here, and here? No, probably not, because no one knows who you are there. But that doesn't matter. At least you're highly effective in this one area. And then as you make a little bit more money in that area, you might be able to afford some billboards that are getting closer over to here. I'll make these circles bigger. You might be able to get billboards closer over to here that kind of start bleeding over into this area. So now you're starting to fill this area and get people familiar with you as well. And then as you get bigger, you might be able to afford this whole area. And then as you keep getting bigger and keep getting more profit and growing as a company, and your trucks are driving through there and everything else, people are seeing that frequency, you might be able to do the whole city. At that point, that's when you start going back to the radio and say, look, I want to run a radio campaign. That's why you have to think about the medium you're using. So maybe if you have a low budget and you're trying to do any brand recognition at all, what I would do is maybe a couple of billboards in one tight area so they see it a lot. Man, I just saw your billboard here. Then I drove like 100 feet. I saw your billboard there. I drove 300 feet. I saw another billboard. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. That's much better than putting 3 billboards, one down here in this side of town, one over here, and one over here. That's not going to work out. So you get them real tight. You make sure that that one area, you own that little tiny area. This is what I did in my company. Mine was actually this quadrant right here in the company that I bought. And we focused all of our marketing. I put a few billboards. I put all my Google ads. I pinned it and said, I want all my Google ads just to show up in this area. I got almost all of my calls were coming from that area because of that. So my trucks were driving through there all the time. Everything that I could do, everything that would allow me to geo-target someplace, I would use for brand recognition campaigns in that area. And I could not own the whole city. I could own maybe 1/10 of it. But man, they thought it was huge. We kept growing, 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 growing. And now we are by far the largest in that city. We're 5 times larger than second place. And we did it by targeting them and making sure that that frequency was up. So number one, make sure that you understand brand recognition versus direct sale. Number two, frequency. Make sure when you're doing brand recognition campaigns, you are hitting them with frequency. Number three is change the medium. Change the medium based on what you're trying to do. So as soon as you get to the point where you can cover a whole area, you can afford to pay for that radio campaign. And now at that point, you want to make sure you're getting the frequency you need. You're hitting them, 3 times a day. So Mrs. Jones might be driving every day at 5 o'clock. Well, maybe you're hitting Mrs. Jones at the 5:30 on the same radio station with your ad on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So every other day she's hearing that ad and she's taking it going, oh my gosh, Mrs. Jones is above $100,000 average income. She's, owns her own home. She's 47 years old and right in your target demographic, and hit Mrs. Jones over and over and over again. If you know Mrs. Jones lives in that area and that place you're targeting and that side of town has this, grocery store, you're putting up ads in the shopping carts in that grocery store. You're putting up direct mailers in Mrs. Jones' area. You're putting up billboards in Mrs. Jones' area, and she's seeing you and seeing you and seeing you. That's when branding starts to work. If you're going to spend money for 1 month running ads on the radio 1 day a week, you might as well burn your money and just dump it down the toilet. There's just nothing that's going to come of that, and it's not going to get you anywhere. Don't do it until you can afford the frequency and you can do it for a long time. Thank you.